Hi, my name is Bryanna Nelson, and I'm from Purdue University. Today, I will be presenting on development of a feminist literature-supported continuum for food safety research in developing nations. Before I begin, I would just like to thank our funding agency, USAID, for supporting not only this project, but several other projects that will be highlighted throughout this presentation. Through Feed the Future Innovation Labs and other research initiatives, the U.S. government's Global Hunger and Food Security Initiative, a sector of the United States Agency for International Development, aids to catalyze ongoing scientific innovation in agriculture and promote evidence-based research. Research projects conducted through USAID need to address cross-cutting themes such as environmental health, emerging pandemic threats, and gender equality. Falling under gender equality is the advancement of women and youth within these systems. The Food Safety Innovation Lab focuses on improving food safety in developing nations with a goal to develop best practices that can be used by households, communities, and commercial stakeholders. Each project is comprised of a number of different team members, including food scientists, pathologists, biologists, gender and youth experts, and many more, each bringing their own specialty to the table and creating a very comprehensive team. The rationale for this continuum arose from reviewing of proposals from the researchers. They often lacked depth and superficially included women, including 51% of interns will be women. Women will be recruited with priority, or a survey of how many women are involved in production. So while it's important to know how many female chicken producers there are, it's not really telling us information about how they're involved in that production. The continuum was guided by two questions. What recommendations can be made to help research scientists meaningfully incorporate women into these studies? And what theoretical frameworks can guide the integration and engagement of women in food production and safety? The continuum is literature-driven, including food and culture, health education, and other potential frameworks that were identified include feminist theory and critical race theory. Because this research is being conducted outside of the United States, there were some external factors we needed to consider, including culture, religion, historical context, current political situations, and governmental policies that might affect the research as a whole. To give you an overview of the continuum is divided into three major sections: methodology, which includes the technical tools and instruments methodology and gender-sensitive methodologies. The second section being deliverable, so what were the deliverables of the project, including educational outreach programs, materials, evaluation research tools, and publications. The third being integration, highlighting gender and culture. There are three stages of development in the continuum, stage 1 being underdeveloped or absent, stage 2 being present and needs improvement, and stage 3 is further development. This is a generalizable continuum that aims to be individualized for each team that is being worked with. So each continuum will look different for each team and will have the potential to expand beyond stage 3. Section 1, methodology, is really guided by two questions. Are the women being researched, or are the women being superficially added? So if we think back to a few slides ago, when we think about 51% of interns being women, that doesn't really give us that meaningful research component to women within these systems. The second being, what are the needs or areas of the women's lives that are being addressed? So really, how are the women really being integrated into the system? So the methodology section of this includes technical research methodologies. So this being their actual research methodologies are sound with their instrument and design. And the second being gender-sensitive methods, where they're using methods and instruments that supported looking at gender specifically, and was the methodology designed to support and examine women in that given setting, including looking at female farmers and entrepreneurs. This project highlights female-sensitive methods, so really looking at techniques that can pull out that social phenomena that we're looking at. So these are often methods that are employed by feminist scholars, including action or participatory research, case studies, ethnographies, oral histories, even surveys, to really elicit that information about women within these systems that the researchers are looking for. Section 2 is measurement, and measurement included the deliverables. So this being educational outreach programs, the materials, research and evaluation tools, and publications, or really, did you disseminate your research and how was it being disseminated? So as far as educational outreach programs and materials, there were kind of 3 pillars to this. One being building trust within the communities. So not only just going into these communities, researching what's going on within their food systems, but really making sure that we're building trust within them. Developing those program materials and programs together. So making sure that what's most important to those involved are being heard. We want to make sure that everybody within this community that is being impacted by these projects is involved in some way. The third being to train educators from the community. So not only giving them ownership of being heard and building trust, but making sure that the educators are people from their own community. The next being evaluation research tools, so exploring other methodologies beyond those placed in positivism and androcentrism. So moving beyond those that are only focused on kind of that androcentrism or positivism and looking more in other places, and knowing that it's fluid, dynamic, and evolving. So with research involving women, there's often the need for fluid, dynamic, and evolving methodologies and research tools, which is why this continuum is meant to be tailored to each individual team and evolves over time. As far as dissemination, there were 3 primary components. Power, involving those that are included in the study, so making sure that we're not just researching them and moving on with our lives. We're actually making sure that they're included, they're involved, and they have power to the information. Inclusion, so making sure the information is accessible to those involved, making sure that they understand it, making sure that we are working together as a community. And access, ensuring that not only do scientific communities have access to this information, but ensuring that lay audiences can access the information as well. Section 3 is integration, and this is really the combination of the teachable or the technical aspects and the deliverable. So the subtopics include the integration or efficacy of the technical and the deliverable, and these were then broken into the ideas of culture and appropriate for gender. So was culture being taken into consideration, and was gender being meaningfully integrated? Were they using methodologies and implementing deliverables that highlighted both culture or women, making sure that the methods and deliverables meaningfully integrated those women and weren't just making superficial implementations of the women? To further highlight this, then, as far as integrating women in culture, we want to make sure that all voices are being heard. So not just the voices of the researchers, but everyone within the community that is participating in this research is really being heard. And the second being factor in culture in addition to women's voices. So really not only avoiding the androcentric methodologies, but Anglo-centric methodologies as well. So really making sure that we are, as researchers, factoring in their voices and their culture as an important component of research. As far as the implementation of the continuum, then, we are continuing to meet with gender research specialists. So we are continuing to meet with the member on their team who is closely working with the gendered research, setting goals and improvements specific to each project. So making sure that they are involved not only in the goal setting, but improving of their project as well so that they can reach their highest capacity, and tailoring the continuum to fit individual projects. So making sure that each continuum is tailored to fit each project and not just a generalizable blank slate. So for results, the funded project teams We have met with them for an initial consultation and given them an overview of the continuum, introduced them to the ideas, and really guided them through this process. The continuum was then tailored to fit the needs of the individual teams, and teams were sent individualized questions and provided feedback to improve not only the generalizable continuum, but to help guide the implementation and individualization of their continuum. So as far as feedback goes, reviewers found the continuum to be easy to read and navigate, as well as helpful in anchoring their research within gendered integrated methods. The reviewers also suggested adding more quantitative methodologies as there was a stronger emphasis on qualitative methods, and others suggested strengthening the continuum with other available gendered continuums, such as those found outside of STEM areas. As far as future applications and limitations go, there is potential for further use and development of the continuum. So, as the current continuum is limited by the 3 levels, there is room to expand into levels 4 or 5, or even going forward 6, 7. The continuum is as endless as the projects need it to be. There is goals of publication for the continuum for future use in similar settings. So really giving this generalizable continuum to whoever needs it. And as far as other future applications, we plan to workshop for USAID outlining gender appropriate methods and integration for using the continuum to help scientists really reach their highest capacity. As far as recommendation goes, it's recommended that further research in related areas is conducted, as well as the expansion of the continuum, so making sure that it is as comprehensive as possible. And the ultimate goal of the continuum is for it to be applied to other innovative lab projects, creating a structure or process as a management team to help the award granting team to reach their highest capacity on the grounds of gender integration. So we really want these teams to be able to take this information and implement it and really have their voices heard so that voices of the communities can be heard. Thank you. Please send any questions you have to either myself or Dr. Hui-Hui Wang.